All right. Well, welcome everyone, and thanks for tuning in. My name is Zach Strelicky. I'm with Crosby Hops. Welcome to Crosby Hops Live. I'm so excited. I've got such a fun guest on today and a really cool project. I've got Matt Williams, the Brewery Operations Manager from Block 15 Brewing. Welcome, Matt. Thanks for taking the time today.
Yeah, of course, man. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. As you can tell, before we dive into the conversation, it is in Oregon right now. It's 75 degrees and sunny. I am at Topwire. We actually open tomorrow, which I'm really, really excited about. This beer that we're going to talk about today is going to be on draft. But before we dive into our collaborations, all the cool things going on at Topwire and with Block 15, I want to kind of dive into who you are, Matt, who you are as a brewer, as a person, what Block 15 is all about. So we'll start on the personal side. If you wouldn't mind kind of giving me a quick intro of who you are, how on earth you ended up at Block 15, and the role you are today.
Yeah. So I'm in Oregon, born and raised. I grew up out in Northeast Oregon, in a little town called Enterprise, and then found my way down here for school. At Oregon State. Grew up farming and ranching, and was going to go into mechanical engineering. Decided I liked making beer a lot more than I liked making gears, so transferred over to the firm side department. Which is kind of what led me into Block 15. My last year's school, Nick and Kristen were opening up Block 15 downtown, and I looked at that as an opportunity to kind of get my foot in the door in the industry. So that was February of 2008 when Block opened. I started working for them in August of 2008 as a dishwasher, actually. Did that for about a year, and then managed to make my way over to the brewery right after I graduated. And just been with them ever since. Kind of started out washing kegs, and just kept learning and growing and staying with the company, and afforded me some awesome opportunities. And now I'm basically running the brewery up here with Nick, and it's been a fun ride.
Were you ever homebrewing prior to working at the brewery, starting on the dishwashing side of things? Were you homebrewing a bit, or did you just jump right into, hey, I'll just be a production brewer?
I was homebrewing a ton, actually. At one point in college, we and my roommate actually would set up our class schedule so that we could do double brew days, like 4 days a week at our house. So we were making like 20 gallons of beer a day, 4 days a week for like a year. So we did quite a bit of homebrewing. It was a good time. Learned a lot, obviously. It was a good way to develop fundamental skills and knowledge before stepping into the professional realm. But and then Block was my first professional job outside of school. So it was kind of a fun way to transition.
So you kind of were a production brewer and on a homebrew scale. That's a lot of homebrew to put out. Do you remember what beers you were making? What were you doing back then?
We primarily brewed like stouts and porters and darker beers, which was more to our preference. A lot of Russian Imperial stouts and things like that. We toyed around a little bit of barrel aging, some unintentional souring projects that actually turned out pretty awesome. We brewed a little bit of everything. We brewed a fair amount of IPAs too, but we definitely focused more on darker malt forward styles.
Last homebrew question. I won't dive down this fast.
Yeah, no worries.
What were you barrel aging at home, and how were you doing?
I just got our hands on some small format wood barrels and soaked them in whiskey and put a bunch of stout into them. I don't. My roommate actually is the one that came home with the barrels one day. I don't even really remember where he got them, but it was a good time.
Cool. Well, enough about your homebrew life. That's really interesting and exciting. I have a feeling with your day-to-day job, you're probably not homebrewing any longer. Yeah. So let's dive into Block 15. I want to hear more about that brewery. I wonder if you could kind of tell me, and for folks that aren't familiar with Block 15, what is it that makes Block 15 stand out? What is it that defines your beers over the rest of the industry? What's the definition of Block 15 to you as a brewer?
I thought about that quite a bit, and I really think, diversity and quality is something that Block 15 we can really hang our hat on. We'll brew and approach just about any style out there, and have over the years. Any type of Belgian styles or spontaneous beers, wild styles, old styles that aren't really around anymore. We'll do just about anything, and we always take the time to really learn about the style and how it was traditionally made, and how to brew it the best way we can. So and that kind of comes around to the quality side of things. We're always gonna buy the best ingredient that we can within reason, and make the highest quality beer that we can, or it's just not even worth putting the effort into, really. We'll do that as affordably as we can as well. So we don't want to be out here with $10 pints just because we put super high end ingredients into everything. So yeah, that's to me is what really stands out with Block 15, is just like the breadth of our portfolio of what we'll approach. I think sometimes we get known as a little bit of an IPA brewery, and we do make a ton of IPA. That's not true, but we also do a ton of barrel aging, and that's something we've been doing, I think, well for a long time. Whether it's non-wild or wild beers, and our spontaneous program, I think, is top notch as well. So just kind of, I think you can come here and find a beer just about for everybody.
Well, I had the privilege to swing by the brewery a few weeks ago for our collaboration, which we'll jump into here in a second. And you're right. I think Block 15 on the outside is known as a very hop forward brewery, specifically Sticky Hands. But I was so pleasantly surprised. The beer that stood out to me for the day was the Dortmunder. That lager was incredible. It was so drinkable, had a nice sweetness, something that I wasn't personally expecting to see come out of your brewery. And it opened my eyes to a world beyond Block 15 IPA. So I agree with you on that front. But let's go back to IPAs. Let's talk about Sticky Hands. It is Block 15's flagship IPA. I would use the word notorious to describe that beer. I am actually from Georgia originally. My friends who I still send beer to back in Georgia, whenever I send them a beer package, it's in the requested beer list. It's always Block 15 Sticky Hands. So you're notorious not only in the region which your brewery is, where you're distributed, but through most of the country. I'd love for you to tell me, let's talk about how on earth you landed on a double IPA as Block 15's flagship beer, not the normal route most breweries take.
Yeah, we knew that was kind of a bold choice when we were starting planning for our production facility. But, one part of it was just, well, why not put a double IPA in a 16-ounce 4-pack and make that our most prolific product? But, we also put a lot of thought into it. You looked at the market in 2013, really, when we started brewing Sticky Hands. And outside of a few select beers, like Torpedo IPA, for example, from Sierra Nevada, there wasn't a lot of presence of double IPAs on the West Coast that were packaged and distributed. So we saw a niche in the market, first of all, that was fairly wide open. And so we decided that'd be a great way to focus on it. And the other aspect of Sticky Hands too is, a big reason we put a big push behind it was knowing that we wanted to step up to a larger facility. We wanted to know that we had one product specifically we could really lean on and build that around, that would then, afford us the opportunity to play with some of the other styles. So that's kind of where Sticky Hands came from. Nick came basically down to the basement one day while I was down there shoving fruit into a barrel and tossed the idea at me, and we kind of just took it and ran with it from there.
And I want to say that beer started in 750s. Is that right?
Yeah. So when we first started brewing it, like I said, it was like 2013. We started brewing it. And what we were doing is we were brewing about 10 barrels a month of it out of the downtown pub. So a pretty significantly small system there. And we would release it the first Saturday every month. We'd bottle up 100 cases of 750s, and we would put the rest into draft. And when it went on tap, and when it was gone, it was gone. Usually the draft would last 3 or 4 days. The bartenders would complain that was really the only thing they were pouring until it was out. And then we'd take those 100 cases, and we had about 10 key accounts in Portland and Eugene that we would distribute to. Just literally with Nick's Toyota pickup, we'd just load that thing to the gills and just drive it up to Portland and drop it off. And it'd be 2-3 cases here and 2-3 cases there. Belmont and Bailey's and all the hot spots, beer mongers, and so we were just really fortunate that we were able to get support from those guys, but also that we were able to kind of start building that distribution platform and getting those markets kind of ready for that product. Another fun thing we did with that for a long time was we basically rotated that beer where, 1 month it would be the regular base Sticky Hands recipe. And then the following month, we would brew a variant where we would change something up, whether it was a malt profile we wanted to try out, or whether it was a different hop selection that we wanted to give it a shot. And it was a way for us to experiment with that model of the beer, and then take what we learned from that variant. And then the following month, we'd go back to the original Sticky Hands recipe, and we'd take things we learned and adjustments that we liked and apply that to the next recipe. So it was a way for us to not drastically change that Sticky Hands base recipe overnight, but get a lot of experimentation.
I remember marmalade was one of the variants that I came across one day. I think it was at Belmont Station. I found it here in Portland, and it blew my mind because to see such a hop forward beer and have such a different version of it that still checked the box that was Sticky Hands and checked the box that is Block 15. It had just this totally different aroma and flavor context to it that was like deeper, richer. Just it got me excited about that beer again. So the fact that it would like kind of move, bob and weave, I found that really interesting. So awesome job there. Leads me to my next piece here. Let's talk about our collaboration. As you can tell, I'm trying to hide it. I'm a big fan of your brewery and a big fan of Sticky Hands. So Pascal, I think he'd be marketing director is his title. Sorry, Pascal, if I messed up. I think you're marketing director. Reached out and said, "Hey, we're coming up with this concept. We want to do some variants, if not collaboration versions of Sticky Hands. Would Crosby be interested?" Like it was like a no-brainer. I think I responded to the email within 30 seconds. Like hand up, let's do it. So this has been going on for 4 or 5 months now. Discussions, what we're going to do, and as we got closer to like the D-Day of actually brewing, and confirmed this is true. This is the first ever Sticky Hands collaboration. Is this true?
Yeah, it's definitely the first time we've ever actually brought in any other outside entities to actually work with us on a Sticky Hands recipe. Obviously, as you mentioned, we've done plenty of variants over the years, but this is the first time we teamed up with anybody and kind of opened up that particular product to development.
It was beyond an honor. Super stoked on it. We jumped on it, of course. So let's talk about the beer itself. It's called Sticky Hands Crosby Cuts. Love the name. I've got an image for you here. Stoked on the can. I actually have one with me, so I'm going to drink it for my first time with you here. I figured it was a good time to do that. So let me pop up my can really quick. And I'd love for you to tell me about the beer. Tell me what's different than the traditional Sticky Hands. I would assume it's the hop bill. If you could just tell me a little bit about the beer, and I'd love to hear more.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the hop bill is definitely different. It's actually not horribly far away from the regular sticky recipe is what's really interesting. It's primarily focused around the 3 hops, Strata, Amarillo, and Comet. Comet is the kind of the newcomer there, but Strata and Amarillo are mainstays in that recipe and have been for quite a while. I think it's kind of a testament, to when you're working with hops, how much difference, not only when you add the hops in the process can make, but also just where the hops come from. Because, this is strictly hops that were, produced by you guys at Crosby. And the Amarillos hit different than the Amarillos we use in that a lot of the times that are sourced from different facilities. And same thing with the Stratas. And like I said, the Comet's kind of a newcomer for us. We actually haven't even really brewed with Comet a ton over the years, but I was really pleased with that hop as far as like the character it presented, the grapefruit characteristics and that kind of dankness that comes from it. It really it meshed right into what Sticky Hands should be. So I think it came out really awesome. I'm really excited about how much of the fruity citrus forwardness came out of it. I think it's probably a touch less dank cannabisy than our standard regular Sticky Hands recipe, and that's okay. Like I said, it's just really fascinating to kind of just look at what those minor differences and how majorly they can change that product.
So I feel like this version of Sticky Hands, I just had my first taste of it. It's Sticky Hands. It's definitely there, but it's got this like orange peel, acidic citrus note thing that's like riding on the top of it that makes it different. I find it really refreshing. It's great.
Yeah.
Comet probably does play a big factor in that. All 3 of those hops you just described, Amarillo, Strata, and Comet, all are some of our favorites. Comet's this public variety that is like gaining new life. It was a public variety released in the 70s, but you think about beer in the 70s, there was no place for Comet, for a big citrus forward, grassy, very like unique citrus style hop. almost didn't make it. And there's been a resurgence over the last few years of Comet. Specifically, most of it's grown in Washington, and it's fantastic. It's your classic, just lovely big citrus and grassy Comet. Well, we've been growing it here on our farm in Oregon. And this is what we use in Sticky Hands Crosby cuts. And it has a little more of a tropical vibe to it. Got a little cantaloupe, a little more, I think it's a little more breadth and aroma and flavor. So it's cool to see it used in application, especially in a beer that I know really well, versus just a single hop application. We're really enjoying it. So glad you guys took the gamble, if you will, and tried out that hop. Hope you guys use more of it. I find it fantastic. It's really great.
Well, that's what's fun about the collaborations. You know, that was kind of one of those things where you guys were coming to the table really strong for that Comet hop, and you know, Nick and I both were just kind of like, you know, we haven't used it a lot, but if you guys are really excited about it, it's got to be something that's going to fit well. So, yeah, it was great to get to experience that and use it. And, you know, it's something that I think, you know, we can keep in our hip pocket as another tool.
So I have to ask, why Crosby? A lot of folks have some great hops out there. Why Crosby? What was the reason for reaching out to us?
I mean, there's a lot of reasons. You guys grow really good hops. You know, local. You guys are probably the closest hop supplier to us, I think, of any of them. And local and community is kind of a big cornerstone of Block 15 in our values. So I think it made sense there. Just you know, and I think Crosby's, from our conversations and what we've seen, you know, your guys's ethics and missions and values kind of mirror ours a lot. So we were talking about this is kind of the next step. We've been, you know, we did a hop selection series earlier this year with some of the hops that we picked from the 2020 crop. And each of those, we've really focused on telling not only that hop story, but the farm that grew that hop story and talking about where that hop came from. And I think this is kind of just the next evolution of that. You know, now we're talking to the farm and the hop producer as well, and we can kind of help tell your guys' story, and you guys can kind of help tell ours. So, you know, that's just kind of what we're trying to do, is kind of just reach out to, you know, our community, and whether that's a local community or just the community of the brewing industry in general, and kind of just help tell everybody's story and tell everybody where they're at and where they're coming from.
Are you starting to see a demand a bit from your consumers for that story, that farm to pint story, where the ingredients are using are coming from? Is that something that's starting to happen at the tap rooms?
I think so. I know people have been really stoked through this series of beers that we've done to be able to learn about those things and to kind of find out a little bit more of that background and see not only just, not just Amarillo in there, it's Amarillo grown specifically at Crosby hops. And we can tell them, you know, hey, it was grown right in this field over here if we wanted to. I think it is, you know, I think it makes for a really interesting and compelling story, and it gives people something to think about and analyze as they're drinking those beers. Because I think as you start to see that flesh out even more and more, you might start seeing beers in the market that they're all Amarillo single hop beers potentially, but from different farms, and you can really kind of start to feel that difference in the, you know, what the vineyards call terroir and the growing regions and all that, and the impact that has on that final hops aroma and flavor. Because, you know, an Amarillo grown on your guys' farm is way different than an Amarillo grown in the Yakima Valley up in Washington. So I think that as beer drinkers kind of get their palate more sophisticated, you are seeing more and more of them being discerning about those things and really being interested in that.
Yeah, you look at the relationship of the beer and the wine world, it being a very agriculture focused business, especially for the raw ingredient side of things. And in the world of wine, a lot of times you'll see on bottles, you know, the coordinates of where those grapes were grown. To me, it's not that out of the question to start seeing brewers looking for their hops in the same manner. Even this telling that story to their customers, like, these hops were grown in the Willamette Valley from this specific farm. Here's information about this family farm. They've been growing here for 100+ years. Go on and on. There's a lot of great content there. I do think consumers are looking for that. They already love your brand. They want a reason to love you more, and they want more stories from you. I think the hop world especially, there's been this like veil over it for such a long time. People know what hops are, but not necessarily what goes into producing great hops. And I feel like what you're doing, and what the goal here is, I'm sitting in Topwire, is to pull back that veil and tell the story of the life cycle of a hop and what goes into it. And hops provide so much value to beer as far as aroma and flavor, but there's also value as far as ethics on where you're sourcing your hops from as a company. What difference can you make from the dollars you spend with your hop provider, how does that change the world for the better? Is it buying another house for someone, second house, third house, fourth house, or is it going back to some programs that are going to better your community, whether that's local, regional, or national? I think those are good questions that brewers should be asking, and hopefully that's a demand that's coming from the consumer side too, knowing that their favorite beer brands are doing the right thing with where they're sourcing their ingredients from. So I love the story. I love the concept. Let's talk about the release. So I brought this up a couple times. I'm at Topwire right now. As you can see, it's gorgeous. I'm getting sunburned out here. So I have to have my sunglasses on too. I can barely see the screen. And the point of Topwire for us is to do exactly what you're doing. It's to tell the story of a hop variety through the medium of our customers' beer. And I think Sticky Hands is a perfect example of that. You guys were out here actually last weekend. We had a small little friends and family get together, and this image came about, which I'd love to see. So the beer officially gets released at Topwire release tomorrow on April 30th. It'll be on draft all through the weekend until supplies last. I think Jenna picked up, I think it was 4 kegs of it. I think 3 or 4 kegs of it, as well
I think
as
that sounds right.
sounds good. We should be good for the weekend, as well as some 4-packs of 16-ounce cans too. So for anyone that's watching, if you're in the area, if you're in the Willamette Valley, please come out. Topwire is a beer garden that sits in the middle of the Centennial Field. I know there's Amarillo in this beer. I'm staring at an Amarillo field right now. Granted, they're just baby shoots, but they will soon be big, lush fields of hops in a few months. So it's a cool experience, great way to experience this beer and learn more about what goes into hop growing. Where else will it be available?
For Friday, it'll be on draft at both of our locations here in Corvallis as well, our Southtown tap room and our downtown pub. Saturday at our tap room, cans will go on sale, and then it'll start hitting retail locations around the state the following week.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to checking it out all over Portland. If I can make a trip down to the tap rooms and talk my wife into joining me, hopefully she'll drive back. I'll make that happen too. I really appreciate it. Before we close this thing up, I did have a question for you. We were kind of diving into the world of hops earlier, and I just kind of wanted to know, what's the value for you as a brewer to getting to know your hop grower or your hop dealer? What is that value to you? And do you find that to be something that should be prioritized with other brewers?
I definitely think it should be prioritized. For me, it's, I have a farming and agriculture background, so I love to see where it's grown, how it's grown, just the process behind it, just so I understand that product better and how to apply it better. I think it's valuable because it helps us, really convey, values and quality between consumer. I'm the consumer of hops essentially because I'm using them to create my product. So it lets me kind of convey what I look for and the quality I'm looking for, and helps the farmers kind of know what brewers are looking for out of their product so they can improve their product as well. Just making those relationships better affords you really cool opportunities, like getting to brew a collaboration beer like this, go out and see people's production facilities, and just, kind of seeing what people are proud of and what all their hard work goes into. So, those personal relationships go a long ways, and you never know when knowing somebody, really pay off for you in the long run. So I always think it's just a great opportunity just to get out there and meet people and kind of see the faces behind all the products I use every day. And that kind of helps put me in the right mindset of knowing what I'm looking for and how to convey my needs back upstream on that product line.
You nailed it. Something I always try to express to any brewer I'm talking to, whether they're brewing 500 barrels a year or 500,000 barrels of beer a year, it's that communication piece is so crucial. We rely on it we're a hop grower, processor, and merchant, so kind of vertically integrated all the tiers of the hop world. That information is so valuable to us to figure out what we need to grow, what the demand is from our customers, where beer trends are going, processing techniques, availability on the spot market versus what's on contract market. It's a lot of pieces that go into it, and if we don't have that direct communication from brewers, it's kind of a shot in the dark, honestly. Right. So I couldn't agree more, and I encourage anyone that's watching that's brewing beer on a commercial scale, talk to your hop suppliers, tell them your needs, tell them when you're happy, when you're not happy, what you think's coming around the corner. If you need to make changes to your contracts, have that conversation. That shouldn't be a scary conversation. We want almost all hop suppliers are our only customers or brewers, right? So it's not really going into too many other products. There's this hop water is growing, seltzer's growing, cider's growing, but for the most part, it's beer, and we need brewers to be successful for us to be successful, and vice versa. So it's important, important topic. I'm glad you brought up. Matt, I really appreciate it. One last question before I let you go. I know you're really, really busy. What would be your favorite hop variety and why?
Man, that's a tough question. I think they all bring some really interesting aspects to the table. I'd probably lean on Chinook though. It's kind of an old school hop, but it's got some really awesome. Everybody thinks of it as like really this pine forward, kind of woody hop. It's got good bittering character. It's got that pine forward character, which is a very classic IPA character. But you can also dig into a lot of Chinooks and get a lot of really awesome like orange marmalade, or even like an orange zest kind of citrusy character to them. I just think it's got a lot of diversity and it ticks a lot of the boxes. And just it's just something that I've used for years and just I love that hop. But yeah, that's where I'd have to go. It's probably Chinooks.
All right, you're preaching to the choir. That is my favorite hop. We align on that. I love West Coast IPAs that are piney and bitter. Chinook brings that all day long. I also love the way those cones look. They're gorgeous. Yeah. They have these like flared brackles. They're beautiful. They're even sometimes they have these like kind of striped color to them. They're beautiful cones. And also my daughter in the hop world, when you have a baby during harvest, you're called like a Centennial baby or a Cascade baby. I have a Chinook baby. So it even goes deeper into that level too. So great choice. And I can tell from your brewing style that Chinook is a favorite, just from balance, bitterness, pine. I like all that in there. You're doing a great job. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for chatting today. For anyone that is looking for this beer, it gets released tomorrow, which is April 30th. Come on down to Topwire if you can. We're in the Willamette Valley. We'd love to host you, and let's drink beer here, surrounded by their hop shoots. They're not fully grown yet, but they're getting there. It's still gorgeous out here. You can also go to all the Block 15 locations, as well as some select retailers that'll have that beer in 4-packs and probably on draft. I'll let you confirm that, Matt.
Tiny bit.
Okay, cool. Yeah. We've kind of snagged a lot for Topwire. Apologies in advance, but for a good cause. And what else? If you want to follow a really awesome Instagram account, follow Block 15. They have really great content, very hop forward content, beer forward content. They're doing good in the world with their brand. So give them a follow. Very entertaining, a lot of fun. Follow us at Crosby Hops as well. Matt, thank you. Well, I see you tomorrow at Topwire. We're going to drink beer together.
Yeah, I'll be up there tomorrow afternoon, man.
All right, awesome, cool. Well, I appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your brew day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers, buddy.
Sounds good. Cheers.
All right, later.